Lift every voice and sing. 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 Lift every voice and sing.
Welcome to the CAAAS Conversations. I'm your host, Reiland Rabaka, Director of the Center for African and African American Studies, which we call the CAAAS, here at the University of Colorado Boulder. Today we are joined by two of my absolute favorite people in the whole wide world, Ruth Woldemichael and Karia White. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are delighted to have you all. Come on, let's get right into the conversation. Tell us a little bit about your background and the Black student experience at CU Boulder. Who'd like to start? Okay, Karia, are you up?
I can go first. So I am originally from New Jersey, so coming to CU Boulder was a little bit of a culture shock for me. I think what defines the Black experience at CU Boulder is whether or not you find that community in those first formative years. I was lucky enough to serve on the Black Student Alliance. I was a social media director for a year. Ruth and I did a lot of work together. And we really intentionally created that community so more Black students could come together. I think one commonality that you'll find between like the Black student experience at CU Boulder is that feeling of like, I don't want to say isolation, but it can be if you allow it to be. And so I think ASA, BSA, all of these different organizations that center around Black wellness, Black community is really instrumental in your experience at CU.
Wow, incredible. Now, Karia, your major, what's your major?
Yes, so
majors, plural? Go ahead.
Yeah, I am a double major in international affairs and ethnic studies and a minor in political science.
Oh, look at you, got that big brain, so beautiful. Ruth, come on, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your major and all of that.
All right, so I'm Ruth Woldemichael. I was raised in Aurora and Denver, Colorado. My parents are from Tigray, Ethiopia. I'm double majoring in international affairs and ethnic studies with a Spanish minor. And I think just to piggyback off of what Karia said, the Black experience here at CU Boulder is very complex. I feel like, and I always say this, community saves me. And community is what kept me here. Once I found my Karias and my Dr. Rabakas, these relationships on campus are what literally sustained my survival and my success and my joy and my growth in ways that I could have never imagined.
Wow, I'm fixing to go off the script as I'm famous for, or infamous for. I want you all to know that building community with you all has been sustaining for me. There are so few Black faculty, African American faculty on this campus that I think all of us saw the need for something like this. And the whole reason for this new center is that we really want to build Black community on the Boulder campus, but also a sense of belonging. I don't want to get too far ahead in our conversation, but all of us agree with that, right? And that, for me, this has been one of the highlights of my teaching career, of my life, if you will, even off the campus and everything. So I just want to shout y'all out. Thank you for the vulnerability, as we say in Africana studies. Thank you for the radical honesty, if you will. Let's go to that second question, if y'all are ready. Both of you were active in various CU student organizations. What position did you hold, and what are some of your major accomplishments during your terms in office?
You want me to go ahead, Karia?
Rock and roll.
Right. So my freshman year, I jumped right into being a member of the African Student Association and the Black Student Alliance for just finding that belonging in that community. So for the ASA, I was just a student member at first. I participated in the Tour of Africa as a dancer, a singer, and a spoken word performer. And for
Go
BSA,
ahead, Ruth.
for BSA, I also began as a student member, but going into my second year. And this is also where Karia and I really got to start our friendship, our sisterhood. I was elected as a director of communications. This is May of 2019. And so then before the end of that academic year in February of 2020, I was the interim vice president. And then by July of 2020, I was elected as president. And so until last year. And so I think a major accomplishment during my time in office for the Black Student Alliance, I think lies in my engagement in like various waves, I will say, of organizing. So early on in my time on the executive team, we started conversations on, well, with CU administration on many issues like campus policing and mental health and Black student retention and like support as it relates to Black faculty and Black students and just the Black community as a whole. And I think those conversations are what beautifully carried us into the reimagination and this love labor that built our conceptualization of the cause long before we actually knew what this would look like.
Right. Beautiful. You better go on. If you keep on, you're gonna be the president one day, Ruth. You keep talking like I'm gonna be the minister of education. Karia White, you're next.
Yes. So my time at CU Boulder is a little bit interesting. I didn't really get to jump into doing the things that have brought me to where I am now until my sophomore, junior year. Like Ruth said, that's where we began our sisterhood. Really, really grateful that I have a Ruth in my life. I think everyone needs a Ruth in their life. But one thing that I was really instrumental in was the BSA, so Black Student Alliance. I was a social media director. I didn't know that I had a niche for social media until I started doing it. And so a lot of my job was to start bridging those relationships between other organizations on campus. And so I think the time that we're in for social media is really interesting because it allows us to, bridge gaps in communication, bridge gaps in our understanding of where our struggles are at. And so Mesa, Umasimecha, all of the people that were instrumental in coming into helping out with a lot of the conversations that Ruth spoke to about, policing with CU Boulder's campus, CUPD, Boulder PD. Those were the relationships that actually solidified and bolstered, our connection and allowed us to have a meaningful rally of solidarity. And I think that's what social media allows us to do. And, social media also then helped with the creation of the cause where the petition had to go out through social media. And it allowed for people across the nation to actually sign that petition and say, hey, this is something that is needed on this campus. And it's not just CU Boulder students that think that this is necessary. It's community members. It's, places that already had African American studies and centers established that we're like, hey, this has been great for our students and we want them to be supported in this way. And so I think that those are my major accomplishments. And then I was also a part of the Center for Inclusion and Social Change. I did a lot of peer education work, which has helped me in the community. I'm an organizer in Denver. And so a lot of my things center around teaching. I teach night classes with Denver Freedom School, which is a direct offshoot of the Freedom Schools from the 1960s. And so, yeah, I really enjoy my time. I enjoyed my time at CU Boulder and, I hope to continue the relationships here.
Wow, this is y'all just fill me up. When y'all talk about your bond, when y'all talk about your connection, when you talk about building this beautiful sisterhood that you all obviously have, I've seen it both in my classrooms, but also outside of it, working with you all to create this center. It is so incredible. It is so beautiful. And I think that is what the Black collegiate experience is really supposed to be about. And what we're trying to do is almost institutionalize it, not in a prison industrial complex kind of. I have to be careful when I say institutionalize, but what we're trying to do is make it a permanent part of the Black experience on the Boulder campus, right? What we want to do is create kind of like an oasis out in here in this wilderness, in this desert, often called Boulder, Colorado. So we want a safe space, a safe haven, if you will, right here, right now. And so again, it's just so beautiful to hear you all, just the kind of love, you know, and the joy that you all have just being in each other's presence, how you all have learned together, both in and outside of the classroom. That's what the cause is all about. So we not only have the whole curriculum, we talking about Africana study, African American study, the curriculum, but we also have a lot of extracurricular activities. That's what the cause is about, right? A mix of both of those, because that's really why you came to college anyway. Here we go. Next question. So, did you take any African American studies classes during your time at CU? Trick question for both of y'all. Did you take any African American studies classes? What impact did they have on your undergraduate education?
I can start with this one. So yes, I have been fortunate enough to take many classes at CU. My first class was with Sean O'Neill, Introduction to African American History, I believe. Yes.
My man, Sean O'Neill.
I love Sean. And then I took the remainder really of my courses with Dr. Rabaka. And so I took the Black Lives Matter seminar, I took the Harlem Renaissance class, and I also took Introduction to Hip Hop Studies. And the way that has been so life-changing for me, especially hip hop studies, because that's what that's what I do out in the community now.
Come on.
I actually just came from teaching at North High School. I had my first day back in the classroom today. And so I'm also a research assistant for the Laboratory for Ritual Arts and Pedagogy. And so a lot of what we do there is centered around hip hop. But I think the classes that I have been fortunate enough to take, and I say that because not everyone, has the gusto to really get through those classes. It's difficult, but it really does change fundamentally how you think about the world and how you relate to other people. And I think what helped me with hip hop studies, and I love hip hop now, is what I like about the hip hop course specifically is you learn that it's not just music, it's also the way that you live your life, and being able to remix your reality to create different narratives is what I love so much about Dr. Rabaka's courses, what I've learned from Sean. It just recenters radical humanism and saying it doesn't have to be this way. And I think that is one of the most dangerous phrases that we hear in the academy of it's always been done this way. And so with hip hop, with the Harlem Renaissance, with all of these things that build off of each other, which is essentially what African American culture is, when we sample from other decades and bring it forth, I think it's just so life changing. So I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Wow. I mean, Ruth, hold on, watch this. She said we remix our reality. If that's not African American studies, if that's not Africana studies, if that's not African studies, nothing is. And in fact, I'd like to think that we literally are remixing the concept of a center at, on college campuses, right? By integrating all these different areas and program areas and just coming together in a way that I don't know if the Boulder campus has seen previously. I'm a hush. Ruth, you ready?
Yeah, so for me, my very first semester, I took Intro to Africana Studies with Dr. Kwame Holmes and my then TA, now Dr. Leanna Looney. And shout out to them if they ever watch this, but I named these two people because I feel really, really lucky to have been introduced to and learned under two Black educators really early on in my time here. Not everybody gets that. I actually remember going into Dr. Holmes's office hours one day, and he suggested, look, Ruth, take other ethnic studies classes. There are other Africana studies classes. And he recommended a couple of names, you, Dr. Rabaka, being one of them. And so that's how I knew I would be okay here. I knew I would find my people and courses that centered on Afrocentrism and intersectionality and radical humanism and interdisciplinary teachings. And so after about 3 classes, I turned my minor into a double major, and that's pretty much thanks to Dr. Holmes and Dr. Looney. I feel also really fortunate, as Karia says, to have taken courses under Dr. Rabaka here. I took Intro to Hip Hop Studies and I took the Black Lives Matter movement class, and I think that those two particularly really frame how how I look at the world, how I walk. We go beyond theory and learning praxis and love, and that also is reflected in our work.
Wow, this is so inspiring. This is so beautiful just to be able to be in dialogue with y'all, be in conversation. This is obviously, I have some unorthodox methods. Y'all seen me in the classroom, and for African American studies, Africana studies, I realized early on that I could teach just as much during my office hours or in the library or sitting in the UMC over lunch with you all as I can, standing at the lectern, and y'all, I'm hitting y'all with my PowerPoint slides because, a brother be rocking them PowerPoints for y'all, you know what I mean? So I'm just saying, though, I just think that to hear you all talk about coming home to Africana studies and what the classes actually mean, I don't know if most people get it. They seem to focus on everything, but how it's actually enhancing the quality of human life, and not just Black folk. I think primarily, obviously Black folk, but other people who never got a chance to have African American studies classes. Ruth, Karia, they sat right next to y'all in some of them classes. They start asking y'all questions. Y'all was the star students of the class, right? Making all these A's and stuff. I'm just saying, though, like for me, there was something really beautiful about bearing witness to you all blossoming, right? Finally, in courses that were centered on you, your lives, your struggles, your family's lives, your family's struggles, your ancestors' lives, your ancestors' struggles. And I don't know if when y'all came to the University of Colorado at Boulder, y'all thought that y'all would have an experience like that, where finally, you probably didn't get it K through 12. I didn't get it. So here you have to pay and go to college before you can actually get courses, like a whole 16-week course focused on people that look like you, talk like you, walk like you. Woo, you better stop me, right? Something happens really, really special, like y'all already know this, in undergrad. I remember taking my first African American studies course in undergrad, and I've never looked back. Of course, we didn't have a major then, so there was no way to major in African. And I thought, you know what, when I grow up, when I get up out of here, I want to sort of build out a way to where we can do it. And I think that African American studies courses, African studies courses are even more meaningful on predominantly white campuses, right? There's something that's really, because Karia, as you said, and we don't like to talk about it, but the kind of cultural alienation and intellectual isolation that we experience, this is a safe space where even if it's just on Tuesdays and Thursday afternoons with me in the classroom, here's a safe space where you can feel healthy, feel whole. You can explore yourself without people trying to police and like, you be, no. You can be as bohemian, as free as you would really like to and explore it. That has been so incredibly meaningful. Shout out to y'all again. Let's go to the next question. One of the main reasons we fought for the Center for African and African American Studies is because we do not feel a sense of belonging, and we want to build Black community on the Boulder campus. Talk to us a little about what community means to you and how you believe the cause will build community and create a sense of belonging at CU Boulder.
I think when I think of community and belonging, the word that comes to me is home, and a chosen home, chosen family. Yeah. I think of people that will hold you up in joy and rest and resistance and celebration. And so I think the cause will cultivate community and the sense of belonging or at CU for Black people specifically, by really being a hub for all students, staff, faculty, community members to do all of that, to come together and have academic support, but also to move farther from the academia and deeply care for the whole self holistically, with all types of events centered on Blackness and arts and just being. As y'all know, I did a study abroad program this past semester in Ecuador. And so something that I got to really study and be a part of is what they call la reexistencia, so re-existence, and existence through resistance through existing and through celebration and through rest and through joy. And I think the CAAAS can be home for that.
Wow, so incredible. Oh, I got so much to say. Karia, you better stop me. Go ahead.
I love this question so much because it allows us to rethink every day, like what it actually means to us. And I think right now I'm in a season of my life where I'm quoting Audre Lorde a lot. And, you know, the function of freedom, or yeah, freedom is to free someone else. And so I think for community, for me, it is Black feminist thought at its core. And what Black feminist thought to me is, you know, that genuine spirit of inquiry of where can we do this better? What are the gaps that we're not seeing and we're not filling in intentionally? I think community is intentional curation. I think community is accountability. And I think so oftentimes we want to throw out these words of community, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but if you're not actually accountable to a community, then that's really difficult to curate. And so when we say what is community, it also means we have to define what community is to us. And so I am in community with disabled folks. I am in community with Black folks, Indigenous folks, brown folks, undocumented folks, people that are on welfare, people are on government assistance, all of these different things. And for me, community is expansive. It allows us to call in folks and say, hey, what do you need? And I think at its real core, community is not just saying I love you, but it's I love you and I'm going to do this. And so there's a follow-up in that being accountable to people of saying, yes, I see you. And because I see you, I see these are the things that I can do to help, you know, or, you know, aid in your reclamation of your own humanity. And so I think community for me is learning where we can go together.
Oh. Ruth and Karia, y'all have taught me so much over the years. And for me, this is one of the joy. This is the reason I got the PhD, because I wanted to practice lifelong learning. African-American studies is such that we already know that our students will become our teachers. Like if I'm really doing my job and teaching you all at a high level, at some point, you all are going to teach me. And again, I'm going to make it public. Y'all have schooled me on so much. Y'all have kept me hip in all my classes. And even after y'all were done taking the classes, we continued. I mean, you all would be some of Ruth, you said chosen family. Again, that's a basic concept that comes from the African world, that we have our biological family and then we have our chosen family. Y'all are my sisters. Y'all are my chosen family. I'm so honored to do this work with you all. I'm so honored to count you among my teachers. And I just want to say that at the core of Africana studies, at the core of when they started in the 1960s and it was called Black Studies, they said that a real Black Studies scholar and student should take the knowledge from the campus and synthesize it with the knowledge from the community, and don't privilege one over the other. So that means even though most of the people in my family don't have college degrees, my grandmama be schooling me every time I talk to her. I know y'all family members school y'all every time you talk to them. So there's a lot of knowledge that is being created in the community, right? And certainly there's knowledge that's being created on the college campus. And our job, the purpose of the cause is to synthesize that and to be a knowledge factory, to be a warehouse where we're showcasing and sharing the best of Black culture, right? And what it means to struggle, right? What it means to sort of be comfortable being who we are, Karia, with all of our various identities, with all of the things, right? We talk about intersectionality. It's not an intellectual exercise when you come to the cause. What does it mean to put intersectionality into praxis? Like, how does it look in real time? This is what we did in the Black Lives Matter movement class, showing like, wow, some people in the academy are talking about it, but these sisters out here in these streets, right, who founded this movement called the Black Lives Matter movement, they made it real. It's not an intellectual exercise. What happens when we put it into practice? I would like to think that the cause is an incredibly intersectional center, right? I would like to think that the whole point of the cause is sort of blur the lines. However they have been doing the academy, however it has been set up traditionally, it's obviously marginalized us, devalued us, erased us. So we're not trying to fit into something that has marginal. No. We're going to carve out our own unique space. It's called the cause. So we are committed to a great cause. And part of that great cause is we're trying to transform ourselves and the world, transform ourselves and the CU Boulder campus. That's part of y'all's great contribution, right? As you get ready to graduate, I don't want to get misty. I know I'm gonna talk about, excuse me, y'all gonna make me mess up my, wait, hold on. Okay, I'm gonna go back on the script. Watch this. What contributions did you make to the creation of the Center for African and African American Studies, and especially the establishment of the Student Services Program within the center?
I can go first on this one. I think a lot of the work that Ruth, Audrea, Isaiah, and I did, they overlapped. I did a lot with the petition, making sure that got out to the different channels,
Thank you.
social media. No problem.
Thank you. No, sir, I'm shouting you out in front of, bow down. As Beyonce say, bow down. Right? I can't finish that because in case my mama watched this program. Hey, listen, Karia, I'm just shouting you out though. We don't say that enough, how much we appreciate Black people, when Black people make serious contributions, when they're not selfish, but they're actually selfless. I don't know if you can, let me check my mic real quick. I don't know if you can hear me, baby. Okay, go ahead now, Pookie.
Yeah, I think for the petition, I think one bonding thing that we all kind of came together with on those calls that we had was just because we didn't have something like the center, we don't believe in sufferability politics. And so we want people to have access to these resources long after we're gone, even if that means that we ourselves, will not be on the campus anymore. And so the petition, I think, was really instrumental to us demonstrating the serious need for engagement in African and African American studies, and for our students and faculty and staff. And yeah, I think Ruth can maybe speak a little bit more to some of the other things that we did.
Yeah. Well, I think first, the start of the cause has like many different like origin stories. I know like Dr. Rabaka you had your own vision, and Karia and I talk about this a lot, but as undergraduates, before even connecting with Dr. Rabaka, we always had conversations on what Karia just beautifully spoke to, on what we did not have and what we wish we did have from this campus. For example, Black mental health services, or especially wanting a physical space for our Black student events. And so I share this because the contributions we make to the cause are very intentional in that way, in speaking to our younger selves on what we would have wanted to support us during our college careers. And then when we survey or engage with our community, those same needs are reflected in their stories through the petitions, as well as like alumni, faculty, or students, current students or students that left Boulder. When we ran this petition, we left a space for students or anybody to really tell their stories and like, okay, like, why are you supporting the cause? What do you want to see from it? And people told stories of like, yeah, I came here in 2010 and was looking for a physical space for students and felt isolated or various things. Or yeah, I wanted student like academic support. Yeah, I wanted a space where I didn't feel policed. And so our stories shape our collective work in that way. And so I think taking the stories and our personal experiences, we also did research as to what other Black student centers or services look like across other campuses all around the nation. So we did a lot around like very intentional reimagination and community engagement and research to build a cause from the ground up with such a strong foundation of love for our people and hope for what could be. As Karia said, just because we didn't have it doesn't mean that other students will not be able to. And so it's come from a deep, deep place of love.
I just want to reiterate the emphasis on selflessness. So both of you all, you did not have a cause. You did not have a center, a space, a place to go and you know, we need, you know, on the Boulder campus, they talk about having, you know, a safe place, a safe zone. We need a black safe zone. We need a space on the Boulder campus where, you know, no matter what's going down, when you come here, you're safe, you're at home. This is about building an intellectual and a cultural and a political home on the Boulder campus. And the fact that you all, you know, can articulate and say, well, even though we didn't have it, we want other students to have it. For me, it's being out here 17 years and feeling such the most intense alienation and isolation of my life. And I have been racially traumatized on the Boulder campus. And this is part of my treatment, part of the healing process, though, that I'm really trying to repair my relationship. Because, you know, I've just been thinking about bouncing, just leave. I'm finna go somewhere else, you know, where I'm finna go to a chocolate city, you know, boom, 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 just go somewhere else, get out of the vanilla suburbs and go to a chocolate city. And part of this, just creating the cause with you all, is very healing for me as well. You know, again, community here, building community on the Boulder campus, though, and we all are hip to this, it's going to look very different than building community at Howard University or the University of Michigan or Berkeley or UCLA or Ohio State or where. It's going to look very, very different here. And we want to create something that's specific to the University of Colorado Boulder. And so I just want to shout you out again, the selflessness that is involved when you are, you know, African-American studies scholar or student. You've got to be selfless. And Ruth, you keep emphasizing this so beautifully. You got to be motivated by love. So there is no antagonism. There is no negativity. We're doing this because it's healing for us to actually come together and do this work. I mean, y'all are like my therapist. It's just been very healing. There's something very therapeutic just being in conversation with you all. I mean, do y'all remember how we would shut down the hip hop classes after, and we just would have a session right then and there, soon as the class is over, you know? I mean, this is really, people don't understand. Like we have this thing called Black psychology, but we have a whole different needs psychologically, mentally, in terms of our well-being, in terms of our sense of wholeness. And this center is very, very much a part of that, which is why we gonna have the Black Mental Health Matters program within the cause, right? And so again, there will be a future cause conversation with our Associate Director, John Robinson Miller IV, where he's gonna lay out some of the initial kind of student services that we will be offering. And let me just say this again, you all will always have a home in the cause. I want to make sure, y'all already know this, I want to make sure that the cause is on the Boulder campus when I go and meet my maker, when I'm off of this world. I mean, that's the kind of legacy that I'm trying to leave. So I'm thinking short term, like, yeah, this is the graduation edition of the cause conversation, but I'm also thinking long term that I want to have like a memorial, a monument to the kind of drama and trauma that a lot of Black folk have experienced on the Boulder campus since 1876. I'm gonna just let that ride for a minute. Can we let it breathe? Now, what do y'all hope for the future of the cause? What are some of the things that you would like to see in the future? I mean, this is that Afro-futurist question.
I think, as voiced so beautifully and powerfully in this conversation, this project, the cause, the foundation of it is so much love, so much reimagination, so much healing and selflessness and values of chosen family, and in the spirit of like Afrofuturism. And so I guess my greatest hope is that the Black community particularly, but allies as well, will feel that intentionality, will feel a sense of home and community in the space we have in Mackey and the intentional programming and services we'll provide. The greatest hope is just seeing the impact of it. And I'm really excited to be able to like water the seeds we planted and watch it grow long after our time here at CU.
Y'all are so poetic. I mean, the people don't know that both of these are two, I mean, you represent Audre Lorde, but these are two incredibly beautiful, poetic people who are incredible poets in their own right. So I just want to show Ruth, you're so lyrical, boy, when you be talking, man. It's so lyrical. I'll be like, oh. Okay, Karia, come on.
Yes. I think my hopes for the cause, I can't even conceptualize yet. Just because like the cause it wasn't here and we had to create it. I think, you know, I'm gonna shout you out, Dr. Rabaka, if that's all right. Something that I learned from Dr. Rabaka very, very early on in my career at CU Boulder was, you know, it pairs well with the Audre Lorde quote that I shared a little bit earlier, but you need models to do a lot of this work. And Ruth and I have our own models that we look to. I'm sure Audrea and Isaiah have their own models, but I think when I began organizing, I had to really ask myself the intentional question of who am I trying to make space for? And for me, that is Black women. It will always be Black women and femmes. It will always be Black queer folks. It will always be Black trans folks. And, you know, my hope for the cause is that there are other Black women, there are other Black people that can look to Ruth and Isaiah and myself and Audrea and Dr. Rabaka and say, I can do it because they did it. And I hope that, you know, that ancestry is felt because we're all walking ancestors. Like we're going to become ancestors. These are going to be the stories that they pull from later on. And they're going to have their own unique challenges that we can't even conceptualize. And I hope that we have made a space to where they don't have to do this work anymore. One of my serious, you know, conceptualizations that I think I would like to see from the cause is that serious inquiry and engagement from the community with Black studies, with African and African American studies, because I think so oftentimes it is written off. It's just like, oh, that's either really good or like, you know, we're not going to engage with it at all. And I think the ultimate form of respect is that constructive criticism and critique that comes from the academy. And I have grown so much as a person, as an organizer, as a friend, as a daughter, all of these different places that I occupy because someone actually took me seriously and said, hey, I know you can do this better. And so I hope that the Black women, the Black femmes that end up watching this can see themselves and myself, Ruth and Audrea specifically. And I hope that other Black people come up and say, I can do it because somebody else did it.
We have run out of time. I want to close out by saying thank you for being such an inspiration to me personally, but also to the broader campus community and then the broader Denver metropolitan Boulder community. You're also setting examples, you know. Karia and Ruth, I talk a lot in my classes about searching early on, you know, even K through 12 for models, for the kind of life that I wanted to, you know, the kind of person I wanted to grow up to be. Somebody who's preoccupied with self-transformation, but also social transformation, that I realized that it wasn't just about me, it's also about leaving a legacy. And normally, you know, cats from the projects don't really talk about leaving, you know, some kind of legacy or something like that. And you all are part of my legacy. And I'd like to think I'm part of you all's legacy and everything. This is, we could go on with this conversation, and we will go on with this conversation. I'd almost like to have y'all back annually, just so that we can reflect on sort of what we have done, to have an annual cause conversation with the alumni founders. Y'all are going to be alumni in 1 month. Again, I want to shout y'all out and say a very heartfelt, in a very heartfelt fashion, congratulations on graduating from the University of Colorado Boulder. It's not every day that you have Africans and African Americans and African diasporians graduating from this very auspicious institution. This is a major milestone in your life. And I hope when you look back at this conversation, you'll know that this is a graduation present that you all have given not simply to yourself, but to future, right, faculty, staff, students that will come through this institution. What an incredible graduation present that you all have given yourselves and also others. Let me close out. Thank you, Ruth and Karia, for being here with us today. Thank you so much for this conversation. Any sign off, any last words?
Thank you. I love you. I love you both. So deeply.
I love y'all. I love you little round heads. I love you. I love learning from you all. I love the way that you all have challenged me. I believe that I might be a better professor and an even better person because I crossed paths with you all, because you all have schooled me both in and out of the classroom. I'm very humble before you. You all are my teachers. I say that with all due respect. I could not be prouder of you. I could not be prouder to do this work, and we are continuing to do this work with you all. Let me close out before I mess up my mascara. Listen, I want to sign off. I'm Reiland Rabaka, and thank you so much for watching the CAAAS Conversations. Take care, and remember, everybody has a special contribution to make to the cause.
Lift every voice and sing. Lift every voice and sing.